talking about is August 1992. I was working as a reporter for a Dutch daily paper, weekly paper at that time, called HP de Tijd. And at that time, a large number from Bosnia, refugees from Bosnia, was entering the Netherlands. And a very large group of refugees was sheltered in a former barracks in the south of the Netherlands. I visited these refugees to interview them and to hear their stories. And among these refugees were three girls, underage girls, so all under 18, without parents, which made them, I think, quite special, because most of the refugees had at least one of the parents or two of the parents present with the children. And then it turned out that these girls told me that they thought their parents had fled from Bratunac, where they were coming from, to a place called Srebrenica that was in Bosnian hands. It was the first time that I heard about these places, and even the fact that there were places in eastern Bosnia that were still in Bosnian hands at the time. So we decided to see if we could reach these parents, to see if we could, as it were, complete the story about the family. Bratunac at that time was definitely not safe. There were many paramilitary groups, informal paramilitary groups, I would say, as well as either Yugoslav or, let's say, Serbian army in Bosnia kind of units. At that time, we didn't need permits to cross into Bosnia from Serbia proper, but we did need to get permission to register with a local commander, who was apparently, I think, a Pokovnik from the former JNA, who was already, I think, or used to be on pension and returned to active duty, so to speak, at this period. We spent a lot of time with this person convincing him that we should be there in the first place, because they didn't like to see any kind of foreign journalist. In the end, got some permission. This was exactly at a period that there was still some fighting going on, and there was still some, I would say, ethnic cleansing going on. You could see, especially on the stretch alongside the Drina, you could see smoke from burning houses. You could see this, mostly this, let's say, informal paramilitary groups moving around, fully armed, in trucks, going to places and coming back from places. There were negotiations going on the right side of the road from Bratunac to Srebrenica. Not very far, I think, from the point where later UNPROFOR established this Žuti Most point. So when we heard that, we actually we asked for permission to join the negotiations. A kind of spur of the moment decision, which we obtained from the Serbian side. During the negotiations, we asked for permission to the Bosnian side to visit Srebrenica. And at that time, it was very hard for the Serbian representatives to say no. So we obtained this permission. We actually took Svetko and his Beo taxi and drove from Bratunac through the lines to Srebrenica. We did a lot of interviews in Srebrenica with people who fled from other places, including Bratunac. So there were people who told us what had happened or was happening in the school Vuk Karadžić. We did succeed in finding the parents of these, the three girls who fled to the Netherlands. We were able to convey some messages and some letters to them, and later tell the girls what happened to their parents. We crossed back through the lines the next day towards Bratunac. Of course, the Serbs were extremely curious about the situation in Srebrenica. After this conversation, we decided to visit the school. So we didn't have anybody from the Serbian army or official side accompanying us at that point in time. So we drove to the school and entered the school, and the school was actually empty, but the doors were open. So basically, we were looking for proof of these stories of the people who fled to Srebrenica from Bratunac. We wandered through the school a bit, didn't find anything out of the ordinary until we exited through the back door, where there was this big garbage container. And what was remarkable, that it was filled almost to the lid with paperwork. So when we started looking through this paperwork, it became immediately clear these were personal papers. These were things like pension contracts, how would you call that in English? Proof of ownership of land and houses, contracts for work, really stuff that maybe people would take with them, to prove things. And actually a lot of IDs, lične kartas. Really, I can't say I saw hundreds, but just in the top layer, there were tens of them. So we gathered a number of these IDs with the idea that maybe we could trace what happened to these people a bit later on. And I also found this little booklet in green with, let's say, the Arab-like calligraphy on the cover. And I saw it was a text in Arabic, and so I immediately thought, this must be a Quran. It was again a kind of a piece of proof that this was about killing and deporting Muslims in particular. While we were rummaging literally with our arms in the container, 4 guys walked up to us through the schoolyard. So we felt a bit discovered. So Cvetko, who was very good in these kind of things, engaged them in some bullshit conversation, while we were able to hide the ID cards and the Quran. So they actually told him that the gymnasium had been full of Muslims, and they were joking about what they had done to these people. And they also said a lot of them had been killed. And when Cvetko asked, so what did you do with the bodies, they kind of made this throwaway gesture towards the north and a bit the east of Bratunac, where you have these low hills behind the stadium. So we noted down the conversations, took the lične kartas and the Quran. Really weird thing was that the mayor of Bratunac and the military commander invited us for a celebratory dinner on the Serbian side of Drina, somewhere above Ljubovija. We didn't feel much like celebrating with these people, to be honest. After everything that we had seen and witnessed, we were also extremely tired. Left for Belgrade early the following morning. After staying for a short while during the day in Belgrade, where we left Cvetko, we took a train to Budapest, but just before the border in Vojvodina, and it was actually a night train, so we were sleeping. We were arrested by border guards, and we were actually handcuffed in our sleeping coats and taken off the train. We didn't have an ID why at all, because there it was quiet, really. And they kept us there for quite a long period. They started questioning us about Bosnia, what we had been doing there. Then I saw on the on the desk of one of the policemen a telegram of what was called the special unit, Specjalna Jedinica from Ljubovia. The policemen said they would transport us back to Bosnia. At that time, I thought, well, if we're going to be sent back to Bosnia, we have these lična kartas with us. That might be really incriminating evidence. And I actually flushed them through the toilet to get rid of them. I kept the Quran because it was not identifiable as belonging to somebody. And also Kadir, the photographer, decided not to get rid of his pictures because it was why he actually went there. Of course, my notes and most of the conversations that I had, I could reconstruct if I needed to. In the end, it turned out that the embassy was able to intervene. So somehow it was contacted. So we were released again by, I think, 6 in the evening. We were not sent back to Bosnia, and we were able to cross the border with the notes, with the photographs and the Quran, but not with the lična kartas. And having arrived in Budapest, I started writing the article, and the photos were developed, etc. So this was how I got in the possession of a small Quran from Bratunac, not knowing the owner, but knowing where it's coming from, and yeah, it has been with me since that time.